The Forum, Los Angeles. September 3rd, 1993. Dangerous World Tour. Michael Jackson is 75 minutes into a sold-out show. 18,000 people screaming his name. He's just finished Black or White, drenched in sweat, heart pounding, feeding off the energy of his hometown crowd. The next song is She's Out of My Life. The ballad he's performed thousands of times. The song that makes him cry every single performance without fail. Not because he's acting, because he can't help it. His band starts the opening chords. Soft, melancholy. The entire arena shifts from explosive to intimate. Michael walks to his stool center stage, sits down, prepares himself for the emotional devastation the song always brings. And then he sees her. Section 103, row 12, seat 7. 12 rows back, stage left. Tatum O'Neal, his first love, his first heartbreak. The woman he dated when he was 19 and she was 15. The woman who taught him what it felt like to have someone see past the fame and just see him. The woman who walked away in 1979 because he couldn't give her what she needed. They haven't spoken in 14 years. 14 years of silence, of unfinished conversations, of wounds that never fully healed. And now she's here, in Los Angeles, at his show, watching him prepare to sing the song he wrote about losing her. Michael's voice catches on the first line, not because of the performance, because of her. 18,000 people think it's just Michael being emotional during his signature crying song. They don't know that 12 rows back, the reason he's been crying during the song for 14 years is sitting there watching him fall apart. Tatum knows. She's crying too. And for the next 4 minutes, Michael Jackson has to sing a song about losing the love of his life while looking directly at the first woman who broke his heart. Summer 1977, 16 years earlier. On the set of The Wiz, New York City. Michael Jackson was 18 years old, awkward in his own skin, famous since he was 10, but emotionally frozen at about 12. He'd never had a real relationship, never been on a real date. The Jackson 5 success had stolen his adolescence. No school dances, no teenage fumbling, no first kiss behind the bleachers. Just hotel rooms and recording studios and screaming fans who didn't know him at all. Then he met Tatum O'Neal. She was 13, almost 14, already an Oscar winner for Paper Moon at age 10, the youngest person ever to win an Academy Award, famous before she understood what famous meant, raised in Hollywood's underbelly with an alcoholic father, and a childhood that didn't include much actual childhood. She and Michael recognized something in each other immediately. Two people who'd been performing since before they could spell their own names. Two people who understood the loneliness that came with being famous too young. Their first real conversation happened between takes. Michael was hiding from the chaos of the set. Tatum found him. "You're Michael Jackson," she said. "I know," he replied. That wasn't a question, just a fact. Michael smiled. "You're Tatum O'Neal." Also a fact. They sat in silence. "Do you ever wish you could just be normal?" Michael asked. "Every single day," Tatum said. "But we're not normal. We never will be. So we might as well find someone who understands." That's when it started. Not romance yet. Understanding first. For 2 years, Michael and Tatum were inseparable. Late-night phone calls that lasted until the sun came up. Trips to Disneyland where Michael felt like a kid for the first time in years. Sitting in silence together because they didn't need words to feel connected. Michael wrote songs about her. Some made it onto albums. Some stayed locked in notebooks he'd never show anyone. Tatum defended him to her Hollywood friends who didn't understand why she was dating that Jackson 5 kid. She saw past the fame, past the image. Saw Michael, the person who was terrified of letting people down. Who didn't know how to stop performing long enough to just exist. Who needed someone to tell him it was okay to not be perfect. This was Michael's first experience of romantic love. First person he wanted to touch. First person whose opinion mattered more than the screaming crowds. First person who made him feel like himself instead of a product being sold to the world. Tatum taught him how to kiss. Awkward at first, then less so. Taught him how to be present in his body instead of always watching himself from outside. taught him that he was worthy of love beyond what he could do on stage. That vulnerability wasn't weakness. For 2 years, Michael believed he'd found something real, something that could last, until it couldn't, until the complications became bigger than the connection. As they got older, their needs diverged. Tatum wanted a real boyfriend, someone who could take her to public events, someone who wasn't terrified of physical intimacy, someone who could imagine a future that looked like an actual relationship. Michael wanted to keep everything private, protected from media scrutiny. He wanted to take things slowly physically because the idea of losing control terrified him. He wanted to focus on his music career. He was recording Off the Wall, the album that would redefine him as an adult artist. He wanted to freeze time, so nothing had to change. The tension built slowly through 1978 and into 1979. Why can't we just go to a restaurant like normal people? Tatum asked, because we're not normal. The second we walk in anywhere, it's cameras and chaos. So we just hide forever? I'm not hiding. I'm protecting us. You're protecting yourself, Michael. There's a difference. The breaking point came in July 1979. Tatum's house in Los Angeles. Late evening. Michael had canceled their plans 3 times that week because of studio sessions. I can't do this anymore, Tatum said. Do what? Be the thing you fit in between studio sessions. Be the secret you keep. Be the relationship that only exists when it's convenient for you. That's not fair. You know how important this album is. And am I important? Tatum interrupted. Michael, I love you, but I need someone who's actually present, who's not terrified of being seen with me, who can imagine a future. I'm doing the best I can. I know, Tatum said softly, but your best isn't enough for me. Not anymore. Michael left that night. Didn't call her back. Didn't fight for her. If you are enjoying this story, please subscribe to support the channel. Because fighting would require admitting she was right. Admitting he was too scared to give her what she needed. Tatum didn't call either. Pride. Pain. The understanding that sometimes love isn't enough when fear is bigger. They sought each other at industry events over the years. Polite. Distant. Surface pleasantries that covered the crater of unfinished business between them. Michael wrote, "She's out of my life," 6 months later. Recorded it for Off the Wall. Cried during every take. The producer kept a version where his voice breaks at the end because it was the most honest thing Michael had ever put on tape. Everyone thought it was about a fictional heartbreak, a performance of emotion. It wasn't. It was about the girl he let walk away because he was too scared to ask her to stay. The next 14 years were a study in trying to recreate what he'd lost. Michael dated other people. Brooke Shields, beautiful, famous, safe. But he couldn't open up, couldn't be vulnerable. Kept her at arm's length until she gave up. Diana Ross, an obsession that went nowhere because she saw him as a child she'd mentored, never as a man. Various brief connections that fizzled because none of them could reach the part of him that Tatum had touched. The pattern was always the same. Get close, pull away, claim he was protecting them, actually protect himself from ever feeling that vulnerable again. And every time he performed "She's Out of My Life," he cried. Hundreds of performances between 1979 and 1993. Tears every single time. People thought it was just Michael being emotional, selling the song. But anyone who knew about Tatum understood. Michael wasn't performing grief. He was reliving it. September 3rd, 1993. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Tatum O'Neal sat in her Los Angeles apartment staring at an advertisement for Michael's concert at the Forum that night. She'd been divorced from John McEnroe for a year. 3 kids. Struggling with sobriety. Trying to rebuild a life that felt like it belonged to her instead of roles she'd played. Her therapist had suggested seeking closure on unfinished relationships. Michael was the biggest piece of unfinished business in her life. She didn't plan to talk to him. Didn't expect him to know she was there. Just wanted to see him perform. To remember what it felt like when they were young and everything seemed possible. To say goodbye to the version of herself that loved him. She bought a ticket online. Section 103, row 12, seat 7. Good seat. Not front row. Not VIP. Just regular admission under her real name. 5 o'clock. Michael's soundcheck at the Forum. His tour manager approached. Security flagged a ticket purchase you should know about. Michael's stomach dropped. Who? Tatum O'Neal. Section 103. The room tilted. Everything went quiet. Does she know I know? Unlikely. Standard ticket purchase. No special requests. Michael sat down. Process. Why was she coming? After 14 years? What did she want? His mind spiraled. Closure? To torture him? To prove she'd moved on? Had she moved on? Michael knew about her marriage. Her divorce. He'd followed her life from a distance for 14 years. Never called. Never reached out. But always aware. Always wondering. 7:45. Michael's dressing room. Alone. In 90 minutes, he performed She's Out of My Life, while the woman who inspired it sat 12 rows back. You performed the song 1,000 times, he told himself. This is no different. But it was completely different. And he knew it. Michael called his musical director. During She's Out of My Life, keep the lights on the audience. I want to see them. We usually keep you in spotlight for that song. Not tonight. Tonight, I want to see the crowd. The show began at 8. 18,000 people on their feet. Michael rose through the stage floor. Jam! Exploded through the speakers. The crowd went insane. Michael performed flawlessly. Every move precise. Every note perfect. But he kept glancing at section 103. Was she really there? Could he see her from stage? The lights were too bright. The crowd too massive. He couldn't make out individual faces. The set list progressed. Wannabe starting something, Human Nature, Smooth Criminal. Everything rehearsed to perfection. And then came the moment he'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. 9:15. She's Out of My Life. The band started the opening chords. Soft, melancholy. The entire arena shifted energy, from explosive to intimate in 4 bars. Michael walked to his stool center stage. Sat down. This was the moment where he was most vulnerable in every show, where the performance stopped and something real happened whether he wanted it to or not. The lights dimmed on him, rose on the audience, exactly as he'd requested. He could see them now, 18,000 faces. And in section 103, row 12, seat 7, Tatum O'Neal. Their eyes met across the impossible distance. She was older. He was older. 14 years had carved different lives into both of them, but for a moment, they were 19 and 15 again, before everything fell apart. Michael started singing, She's Out of My Life, She's Out of My Life. His voice cracked immediately, not performance. Truth. In section 103, Tatum was crying, full tears streaming down her face. She didn't expect this. Didn't expect to see recognition in his eyes. Didn't expect him to know she was here. But he knew. He saw her. And he was singing directly to her. Every line felt like an apology, an explanation, a confession he never gave 14 years ago. And I don't know why I let her get away. Because I was scared. Because I was stupid. Because I didn't know how to be what you needed. Damned indecision and cursed pride. I chose my career over you. I chose fear over love. I regretted it every day since. I kept my love for her locked deep inside. I never told you how much you meant. I never fought for you. I let you walk away. Tatum understood every word. This wasn't performance. This was Michael's truth. 14 years late, but finally honest. The bridge. The part where Michael always breaks down. His voice cracked completely. Tears streaming down his face. It's too late to bring her back to me. He was looking directly at Tatum when he sang this. The audience thought it was just Michael being emotional during his signature crying song. Tatum knew better. The final chorus. Michael could barely get the words out. His voice wrecked. Broken. Honest. She's out of my life. The last note hung in the air. Silence. Then the arena erupted. 18,000 people on their feet. Screaming. Crying with him. But Michael wasn't looking at them. He was looking at section 103, row 12, seat 7, where Tatum was standing. tears streaming, hand over her heart. Their eyes met again. And in that moment, without words, they had the conversation they should have had in 1979. I'm sorry. I know. I never stopped thinking about you. Me neither. We can't go back. I know. But maybe we can have closure. Michael stood up from his stool. The crowd was still screaming. The band was ready to transition to the next song. But Michael did something he'd never done before. He spoke directly into the microphone. I need a minute. The band stopped. The crowd quieted, confused. There's someone here tonight, Michael said, his voice shaking. Someone I haven't seen in a very long time. Someone who meant more to me than I ever told them. 18,000 people went silent. What was happening? This wasn't in the script. Michael looked at section 103. Tatum, if you're willing, I'd like to see you after the show. Just to talk. Just for closure. No cameras. No performance. Just two people who used to know each other trying to finish a conversation we never got to have. The crowd erupted in confused chaos. Half didn't know who Tatum was. The other half were losing their minds. In section 103, Tatum was frozen. 18,000 people had turned to look at her. She was visible on the big screens. Michael waited. On stage. Vulnerable. Terrified. Tatum nodded. Small nod. Barely visible. But Michael saw it. Thank you, he said into the microphone. Then to the band. Let's continue. The rest of the show passed in a blur. Michael performed flawlessly, but his mind was backstage, where Tatum would be waiting, where they'd finally have the conversation they should have had 14 years ago. 11:30. The show was over. The crowd had gone home. Michael's dressing room. Tatum waited inside. Security had brought her backstage immediately after Michael's public invitation. She was nervous. Hadn't been alone with Michael in 14 years. Michael entered, still in his performance clothes. Exhausted, emotionally wrung out. Hi, he said. Hi, Tatum replied. They sat on opposite ends of the couch. The distance felt enormous and familiar at the same time. Why did you come tonight? Michael asked. Honestly, I don't know. Impulse. Curiosity. Maybe closure. Did you get it? I don't know yet. Why did you call me out? In front of 18,000 people? Because I've spent 14 years wishing I'd fought for you. And I thought maybe if I said something publicly, I couldn't take it back. Couldn't hide from it. Silence. You hurt me, Michael, Tatum said quietly. Not maliciously. But you hurt me. I know. You chose fear over us. Chose your career over what we had. I did. And I've regretted it every single day since. Then why didn't you call? Why didn't you try? Michael was quiet for a long moment. Pride. Fear. The belief that you'd moved on, and I had no right to disrupt your life. Every reason, and none of them good enough. Tatum looked at him. Really looked at him. I got married. Had kids. Built a life. And I told myself I was over you. That what we had was just young love. Not real. Was it? No, Tatum admitted. It was real. The most real thing I've ever had. And I spent years trying to recreate it with other people. But you can't recreate first love. You can only remember it. Is that what this is? A memory? I think so. We're different people now. You're the biggest star in the world. I'm a divorced mother of 3, trying to stay sober and figure out who I am. You're still the first person who saw me as Michael, not Michael Jackson. And you're still the first person who made me feel like I was enough just as I was. Silence. Comfortable silence. The kind they used to share. Could we try again? Michael asked. Start over? Tatum looked at him with something between love and sadness. No, we can't go back. We're not those kids anymore. And trying to recreate what we had would only destroy the memory of it. So this is goodbye? This is closure. This is us finally finishing the conversation we started in 1979. This is me forgiving you for being too scared to fight, and you forgiving me for not waiting. I don't blame you for not waiting. I know, but I blame myself for a long time. Tatum stood, walked to Michael, sat next to him on the couch. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For tonight. For acknowledging me. For finally being honest. Even if it's 14 years late. Thank you for coming. For giving me a chance to say what I should have said then." Tatum hugged him. Long, warm. Final. When they separated, something had shifted. Not romance. Not rekindling. But peace. "I hope you find someone who makes you brave," Tatum said. "I hope you find someone who makes you feel safe," Michael replied. "We had something special, didn't we? The most special." "Good. I needed to know I didn't imagine it." "You didn't. It was real. It always was." Tatum left. Michael sat alone in his dressing room, staring at the space where she'd been. For 14 years, he'd carried the weight of losing her. Tonight, he finally set it down. Not because he stopped loving her, but because he finally understood that some loves are meant to teach you, not last forever. Tatum taught him what vulnerability felt like, what it meant to be seen. And that lesson stayed with him long after she was gone. September 3rd, 1993. The Forum, Los Angeles. Michael Jackson performed She's Out of My Life, while his first love watched from 12 rows back. For 14 years, he'd been singing that song and crying, reliving a heartbreak he never processed. That night, he finally processed it. Tatum O'Neal appeared at his concert not to rekindle a romance, but to give them both closure. To finish a conversation that ended too abruptly in 1979. First loves are powerful not because they last, but because they teach us what it feels like to be vulnerable, to be seen, to risk our hearts for the first time. Michael and Tatum learned that together, and then they learned to let each other go. 6 months later, Michael read an interview with Tatum. She mentioned him in passing. "Michael Jackson was my first love, and that will always mean something. But first loves are meant to teach you, not last forever. He taught me what it feels like to be seen. I'll always be grateful for that." Michael called her after reading it. "First time since September. I read your interview. And you were my first love too. And you taught me what it feels like to be vulnerable. I'm still learning, but I'm trying." "That's all any of us can do," Tatum said. They talked for 20 minutes, laughed about old memories, didn't promise to stay in touch. But the wound had finally healed. Some loves stay. Some teach you what you need, so you can find what you're meant to keep. Michael Jackson sang about Tatum O'Neal for 14 years. But that night at the Forum, he finally sang for her, one last time. And in doing so, he let her go. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is release someone with gratitude instead of clinging with regret. 14 years late, but right on time. If you like this story, please subscribe to support this channel.